Trying to coordinate plans with friends to make a trip happen can be so challenging. Everyone's so busy with work, with kids, that I often find myself just taking way more solo trips because I want to travel more. And in order to be able to do that, gotta forego the friends and family and go by myself. So in today's video, I'm gonna be ranking my top 5 cities to travel solo here in the United States. So starting off with number 5 is Chattanooga, Tennessee. Chattanooga is about a 2-hour drive from Nashville, so I've been there a handful of times. And I would say it's kind of a small, big town, definitely a college town. It has the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga there, but there's a handful of activities that makes it a great destination for a solo trip. A lot of outdoor activities with Lookout Mountain, Ruby Falls, which is a waterfall inside of a cave, so that's pretty cool. It has lots of nature reserves for hiking. It's by the river, so it has a really nice river walk. There's also the Tennessee Valley Railroad Museum, whiskey distillery, so you can do a sampling tour. So a lot of different activities to keep you busy on a solo trip. I would say the accommodations were fairly affordable, so it won't really break the bank on accommodations. And I felt relatively safe in Chattanooga. I didn't really have too many concerns being a solo female. I walked around and hiked by myself and didn't have any concerns there. Some of the cons, though, as a solo traveler, some of the activities I found myself wishing I had someone with me to experience with, which a lot of times when you're solo traveling is the case, but specifically going through Ruby Falls in the cave. If you find that you're claustrophobic, that could be an activity that you wish you had someone with you. Also, there's limited public transportation, so you would need a vehicle to do a lot of the activities around Chattanooga. But overall, I've enjoyed my trips to Chattanooga, and I think it is a great place for a solo traveler. Number 4 on my list is New York, New York. It's great for a solo traveler because there's so many things to do. Between the Broadway musicals, all of the museums and sites, the history, the tours, the food scene, so many things to do that you could really build your itinerary and not be bored. I think boredom can be one of the top issues of traveling solo, and so New York offers so many things for you to do to keep yourself occupied. Also, the public transportation is really nice. You can pretty much get anywhere with the metro, as well as the city's fairly walkable, obviously. So those two combined make it great to travel solo. You don't have to worry about driving and navigating that way and spending a lot on renting a vehicle and the parking. And then I think it's fairly easy to blend in as a solo traveler in New York. It's such a populated city and there's so many things to do that you don't have to feel weird about being by yourself. So some of the negatives of New York is that it can be so overstimulated between all of the sights, the sounds, and even the smells. It is a lot. It's a lot. And I found myself quite frequently going back to my accommodations just to have some silence and to decompress. So if you're one that gets overstimulated easily, New York may not be the destination for you to travel solo, or just kind of be aware of that you might need some time to go back to your accommodation to decompress, re-energize yourself. Some neighborhoods and even at night, being solo can present some safety challenges. So you do want to be aware of your surroundings and the neighborhood and maybe keep in mind the activities that you have planned as a solo traveler to keep yourself safe. So those are some of the pros and cons of New York, but it is still a great destination for a solo visit. Number 3 on my list is Asheville, North Carolina. It's about a 4 or 5 hour drive from Nashville, so made that trip a couple of times. It is so scenic with the Blue Ridge Mountains just being everywhere. The Blue Ridge Parkway is so beautiful to drive through in every season, specifically fall though. The leaves are just magnificent. If you love outdoor activities, there's so many things to do with hiking. Hiking the tallest peak of Mount Mitchell is just gorgeous. Loved that. I also did horseback riding, which was super fun. So lots of outdoor activities, as well as has a great art scene. So if you're into arts and culture, downtown Asheville is the place for you. I also enjoyed visiting the Biltmore Estate. So the Biltmore is a great property to explore as well as tour the mansion. I loved learning about the history. I just love historic homes in general, so touring the Biltmore Mansion was so much fun. And I found the accommodations quite affordable. I've actually stayed in a couple different tiny homes outside of Asheville, and they were super affordable as a solo traveler. You get the entire place to yourself, and it really makes you feel like a local, that you have your own little house that you're staying in, which is really cool. So that's another pro that I love about the Asheville area. However, some of the cons, it can get a little bit lonely as far as if you're just mainly doing outdoor activities by yourself and not running into a lot of people. It can get kind of lonely. There is, again, the limited public transportation, so you will need a vehicle to drive to a lot of the spots and places that you want to go. But overall, love Asheville, felt super safe there, no big concerns on that aspect, and just think that it's a great place for a solo trip. Number 2 on my list is quickly becoming one of my favorite cities, and that is Boston, Massachusetts. My very first trip to Boston was a solo trip, and I fell in love with that city. I love it so much. It has so much history. So if you're a huge history buff, then I highly recommend Boston. And for solo travelers, so many activities with the Freedom Trail Tour, the Boston Tea Party Museum, the Paul Revere House, so many things to do there. It's also such a great blend of old world charm and modern city, so you get both vibes there. Public transportation is excellent. It's one of the few places I've ever been that has a free transportation from the airport to the downtown with their Silver Line bus. And it's just so well connected. You can easily take a day trip to Salem, Massachusetts, or to one of the towns in Cape Cod with the public transportation on the train or the ferry. Now, some of the negatives of Boston is the accommodations and even the food, in my mind, are so expensive. If you want to stay in a decent place, then the accommodations in Boston are just so expensive for anything just minimally decent, which is kind of a bummer. As a solo traveler, you're not splitting the price of the accommodation with someone else. And so, man, that can really be cost prohibited if you're budget conscious. So that's something that I think is a huge negative of Boston. So overall, I think Boston's a great destination as a solo traveler. Even the safety, I felt fairly safe in all the neighborhoods I visited. Again, want to be aware of your surroundings, but for the most part, I felt fairly safe in Boston. So I think it is a great place for solo travelers. And then number 1 on my list is the first destination that I ever went to on a solo trip, and that is Savannah, Georgia. It is such a charming town, city. Love Savannah with its cobblestones and mossy oaks. It's just so beautiful, and the vibe and the energy is so laid back and really forces you to kind of slow down and enjoy the city, which I absolutely love. There's so many quirky activities, like the ghost tours there, probably one of the best ghost tours I've ever been on, just because the city's so full of history that it makes each tour that you take that much better because there's so many stories woven into the tours. So I love that aspect of it. It's a very walkable city with all the different squares, and it has a riverfront that's very walkable as well. I also found that all of the people I encountered at restaurants, so all the servers, were so chatty and nice. And I think that's hugely important as a solo traveler when sometimes you can feel a little awkward eating by yourself in a restaurant. But every restaurant that I went to in Savannah, the servers were so chatty and made me feel like I had a friend that I was just chit-chatting with them. They'd always stop by and chat in between serving other tables. So I loved that. Some of the cons in Savannah, transportation is very limited. So I did have to Uber from the airport to downtown. It's walkable, but if you want to go to other spots like Tybee Island, which is a really cool spot to go to in Savannah, you'll need to either Uber or rent a vehicle. It's not as easily accessible with public transportation or walking, so that can be kind of a con. Also, depending on the time of the year, if you go in summer, specifically July and August, it is extremely hot and humid. It is Georgia, after all. So if you have limited vacation time and summer is the only time you can travel, that is something to be aware of with Savannah. It can get extremely hot. So, those are my top 5 cities to visit as a solo traveler in the US. Let me know down in the comments, do you agree or disagree with my rankings? Or is there a city that I need to visit that you feel should rank higher than some of the cities I've ranked? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao for now.